Good afternoon, Crystal. How are you, ma'am?
I am wonderful. And yourself?
Just lovely. Just
Awesome.
lovely.
Awesome.
So, we've got an interesting thing to talk about today. I know we usually talk about my job, around my job, sort of like the cloud, but we don't talk specifically on my job. And so I thought I would take the stage and do
Okay.
that.
All righty. Well, I like that. That works
so,
for me.
yeah. So, how about if we do this? I will read your bio and
Mm-hmm.
and then we can jump right in with, I believe the title is the three R's, and oh no, the title is Employee Benefits versus a Wealth Advisor. Yeah. So, you ready to go?
Hmm.
All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My friend Crystal Mitchell and I'm Jevon Thomas with BT Advisory Group and Jevon Thomas Retirement Plan Consultants. And this is Crystal Mitchell. She is the business coach and consultant, the CEO of Mitchell Business Solutions. She's the co director of Recycling Black Dollars, the co host of The Business Zone with Crystal and Gilbert, a weekly online radio show. She's an instructor at Mount San Antonio Community College, a certified network for teaching entrepreneurship instructor, and a QuickBooks Pro Advisor financial strategist. Hey, Crystal, thanks for joining us. How you doing?
I am wonderful. Now, let me, so that anyone want to follow us other than where we are, we're on LinkedIn.
Yep.
Okay. And we are on Facebook somewhere.
Yes, ma'am. We should be on
Okay.
Facebook at JTRPC, I believe. John
Okay.
Thomas.
On Facebook is JT,
Oh
and then
no,
on.
I'm sorry. That was on. Yeah, that's the Facebook page. Yes, you're right.
Okay, so JT, so you can find us on Facebook on, as he said, JT
RPC.
RPC, and then on LinkedIn under.
Javon K. Thomas, I believe.
Okay, all righty. So that's where you guys can find us for this wonderful conversation we're about to have. All right, let's go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I think that's the YouTube is JTRPC. The Facebook is Javon Thomas, and LinkedIn is Javon K. Thomas, I believe. Yeah.
Okay, well, right now I see us live on LinkedIn, so y'all can go right on over to LinkedIn. You can
There
go
you go.
on over to YouTube, and you can go over to Facebook.
Yeah, yeah.
There we go.
So the reason I started this is many folks come to me, as they should, to ask, and I encourage it to ask what to do with their retirement plan dollars. And I love answering those questions because I really think that I'm just between you, me, and the fence post. I think I'm sort of a freedom fighter, a bit bold, but I think if you have the chance to get into a 401k plan and we can get you early enough and you can put enough in, that's less money than you have to depend upon the government for your survival when you become retired. So you
Mm.
are getting yourself off of the government teat, and that is freedom. So I just sort of co-opted that freedom fighter thing. So what we want to talk about today is the difference between myself and a private wealth advisor, because many people compare me to them and ask me some of the questions they ought to ask a private wealth advisor. And while it's true that we have much the same licenses and the same experiences in one way or the other, we are quite different. We are quite different, and it's good for folks to know who it is that they're talking to. And that doesn't mean that we work uh, in, well, I would say the word is we don't work against each other. We can work with each other. And I have colleagues that do that.
Hmm.
That is, they work with me. I handle the retirement plan and they handle the wealth. And another way to put that is I handle the accumulation stage and they develop a relationship with the client to handle the decumulation stage as well as the growth stage outside of the 401k plan. So where
Okay.
my relationship would end, their continuing relationship would see that person through all kinds of ups and downs outside of the retirement plan and after the retirement plan, actually. So let's talk about the difference. Like I said before, much of the same licenses. I've got 7, 6, 63, all that kind of good stuff. Um, and then the particular job takes over. So, as a retirement plan advisor, oh, you know what?
Mhm.
We didn't do the banners here. Let's see, I have to do this. There we go. My lovely typing. So, as a retirement plan advisor, I work for the employer. The employer of your company is my boss. He's my client. She's my client. She's the one that makes the final decisions, signs the final paychecks as to how and when I get paid. So, she's the boss. And it's important to realize that because a 401k plan or 403b plan or 457 plan, defined benefit plan, they are actually benefits of being an employee. So your employer thinks enough of you that they want to help you retire, which is
Mhm.
pretty awesome because planning for your retirement is your responsibility. I know a lot of people shirk that and they want it to be the government, they want it to be their company, but when you get right down to it, it's our own personal responsibility. We have to plan for that. And so the employer has the opportunity to help us. And indeed, I would say if you're looking at that total compensation package, that is salary, benefits, pay some attention to how they treat that 401k plan. Typically small companies, typically not all the time, but typically small companies, they really just want to have a plan so that they themselves can put money in and save money, right? Which is not a bad thing. I mean, nobody that I know of ever started a company so that they can help somebody else retire,
No, usually they're concerned about their own retirement.
right?
Yes.
But when you get to larger companies, then they want to make sure that that plan works for their organization because then, and this is where the three R's come in, they want to make sure they use the plan to recruit, reward, and retain their employees. And so we call that the three R's in our business. We'll talk about that just a little bit later. So I am a vendor to the employer, and that's kind of cool because if you talk to my colleagues on the other side, that is wealth advisors, and you make oh, it doesn't really matter how much you make, but you've got $5,000 saved up, they don't really want to spend time talking with you, right? It's tough to go to a wealth advisor and say, hey, I got $5,000. I want to turn this into retirement with me for myself and my family. It just really doesn't work as good as they are. They have to eat.
Right.
It is all about eating. But if you spend time with someone like myself, a retirement plan advisor, and you say, hey, I've got $5,000 in the plan. I don't understand what a bond is. I don't know what a stock is. I don't know what this asset allocation thing is. And
Hmm.
why should I rebalance if I feel fine now anyway? And, all these questions. I have no problem spending an hour on the phone with you for multiple weeks and then ongoing each quarter or whenever you need me. We could set something up regular or what have you. Take a look at the market, take a look at your portfolio, talk with you about rebalancing, all of that. That's my
Hmm.
job. I
Right.
love it. That's part of what I do. You probably won't get that from a wealth advisor. Often many of my friends will say, well, Jevon, if you really wanted to help these folks, then what you would do is you would call them up on a quarterly basis. You'd run some type of battery of questions so you could find out exactly who they were, get all of their needs, and figure out what a direction for them to go with would be so that they can reach their retirement goals. That's what you would do if you really cared about these folks. And I say to them, how much would that cost? And what employer is willing to do that? Just doesn't add up, right?
Right.
Because I ain't
Right.
cheap. I mean, I get paid. So, an employee benefit, however, the first job, the first concern is the employer.
Hmm.
And 401ks, 403bs, what we call qualified plans, employer sponsored retirement plans, qualified plans, are qualified for a couple of things. One, in some cases, a tax benefit. Two, they're qualified for the employer to take money out of your paycheck, sometimes before tax, sometimes after tax, and to put into the market. So the government has rules with regard to how you can get that done. You just can't do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
why the money that's in those plans belongs to the participant. It doesn't belong to the company. Right? If you take money out of someone takes money out of my paycheck and they put it into that retirement plan on my behalf, it's on my behalf. It no longer belongs to the company.
Right.
So, getting back to the difference between the private wealth advisor and the employee benefit person like myself, the number one rule of a 401k plan is the employer has to act in the best interest of the participants, not their self, but they have to act in the best interest of participants. And there are rules and best practices that support that. And that's kind of tough for a lot of employers to deal with.
Mm.
You know, um, they set the plan. This is my company. This is my benefit I'm providing them. I think we should invest in pork bellies because I'm going to make a lot of money on that, especially within the next 2 days. And we should monitor that because there may be some other commodities that I can make money on. And so let's put those into the retirement plan because we want everyone to retire. Well, the problem with that is that it's horribly inappropriate for most investors out there, right? And it's very difficult to track how how reasonable that is for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So the federal government is pretty much going to say no. Don't put you can't put that in. Don't do that. Don't do that because your number one job is acting in the best interest of all the participants, the ones that make $20,000 a year, the ones that make $250,000 a year, the ones that make $800,000 a year. All participants need to be treated equally, and we have some rules around how to do that and some best practices, like I was saying before. The first best practice is you get a financial advisor to help you, right? A financial advisor, someone like myself, to talk
Mm-hmm.
with and educate participants, not to make decisions for them, but to educate the participants so that they can make a good decision. And let's not forget that a 401k plan is just a tool in your toolbox, right?
Right.
It's not the only investment you have. Hopefully, you get your 401k plan, you have some real estate, maybe a part time job, you've got other ways of getting money in. It's just a tool. It's like a crescent wrench. Or
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about this morning. I look at my kitchen, I like to cook, and one of the things I have in my kitchen is a whisk. I have
Mm-hmm.
a metal whisk, and I have a rubber whisk, and I have a ladle. I've got a metal ladle and a plastic ladle. So
Okay.
I can't cook everything I need with the ladle. I mean, I can get close. I can do some stuff with it, but I really do need a spatula, and I
Mm.
really do need one of those ladles with holes in it. And I really do need a couple of other things, a little wooden spoon, to stir things and all kinds of.
Yeah.
So a 401k plan is just a tool in your financial toolbox. And we want to know how to use that tool efficiently and so that it can give us the best results that it's supposed to, so that it can really fulfill its function. So to make that tool into a microwave oven is just not, you got to cut it, right? Or to make that tool into a chef. I mean, they just don't work, right? So um, it's a great tool, but it does what it's supposed to do. And if you try to make it do some other things, you're going to get into problems. Okay. So as a retirement plan advisor, I specialize in company sponsored retirement plans. If you ask me about what to do with Aunt Harriet's, um, what do you call it? Aunt Harriet's money that she left you, Aunt Harriet's inheritance that you just received,
Mm-hmm.
other than giving it to me, um, you'd probably be better off talking to one of my colleagues. But when it comes to you're a business owner and you want to set up um, a benefit package that helps your employees reach retirement because you're in a competitive space and you understand that when people look at total compensation, the benefits that they receive are important. So, how do you make your plan the best? What are the rules that are going to govern that? Two rules that come before me or come at me almost all the time about that you
Mm-hmm.
don't see on the side of my colleagues that do wealth management. One is discrimination testing. Every retirement plan has to go through discrimination testing. Discrimination testing can be broken down into two major components, and that is average deferral, the amount that actually the percent that comes out of a person's check. Um, that has to be average, or so that amongst all the employees, the ones that are not very highly compensated and the ones that are highly compensated, we can get into those definitions. But essentially, people have less money and people have more money in salary, right?
Mm.
And then so that's the percentage has to balance out. And then also the other test is contributions. The contributions have to balance out. Essentially, they take all the contributions of all the different people there in the plan, they put them through this mix, and they come up with a number. And that number has to represent balance between the two different clients or two different kinds of people in the organization. You don't have that with my friends on the wealth side. Or the friends on the wealth side, they only have one client, you,
You.
right? So they want to know what your needs are, what your family looks like, what your particular goals are, and they want to sit down and talk with you particularly. They're not really concerned about you fitting into this group of other employees. I, on the other hand, don't have that luxury since I'm working for an employer, and that
Mm-hmm.
employer is supposed to act in the best interests of all the participants.
Mm-hmm.
The federal government has given us those rules, and one of those rules is discrimination testing. The other best practice slash rule, if you would, is education. As an employer, you should, it's a best practice, educate your participants. There's some folks that's tough, you know. Some folks, you want to hold a meeting with them if that's the way that they choose to do it. And
Mm-hmm.
you got to shut that plant down and then get that plant shut back up. So that employer might say, that's not the kind of education we can deal with. Okay, so can we send them an email? My folks don't work at a email. They don't work at a desk. They're out working hard. All right, so that is upon that employer, someone like myself, to figure out how do we educate those folks so that they can make a good decision about where to invest their money. And I think that's a really important thing there. One of the similarities that we have is that that is me and other wealth advisors is that we want to give the client, the person that we're talking with, that we're meeting in front of, we want to give them the best guidance, and my point, guidance as to what they
Mm-hmm.
should do when they make decisions. On the wealth advisor side, they want to give them the most advice they can. I can't give advice, I give
Mm-hmm.
guidance. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I can say things like, well, based on what you've told me and the risk questionnaire that you've taken and the goals that you've shared with me, best on that, I would consider one of these three options. And we can talk about the options and then you can choose one. Those are the kinds of conversations I have. On the other side, the person may say, based on what you've told me and where you're going and our relationship, I would say that this is a good way for you to go. And if I were you, I would do this. Very different conversations.
But
Very
even
different.
though your client is the employer, um, just from knowing you, I get the sense though that you also want to make sure that the employees are taken care of.
You're exactly right. So the job of the uh, employer when they have a 401k plan is to act in the best interest of the participants.
Right.
Most employers don't know how to do that. So they hire people like me
Okay.
to educate, instruct, meet with the participants. And they get me. And I have the same licenses that our wealth person has. And we talk about many of the same things, but I do it under the umbrella in the rules of a 401k and what the government will allow me to do. And I
Mm.
think one thing it's a bit it's a bit I guess we call it around, like we don't really talk about it very much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of anecdotal. Is that when 401k started, the federal government said, look, we need to educate these people on how to handle the market. So we need to put some guardrails on how employers manage these plans. So, number one rule, act in the best interest of participants. And to make sure you do that, we're going to install some best practices. One is education,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to put some rules in. And one of those big rules is you cannot discriminate against any other employee or any group. Right? And the
Mm-hmm.
big one is you got to act in the best interest of the participants, not yourself. And this is tough because there are lots of business owners I know that have wealth advisors and have invested in a particular category of investments and done extremely well with that. And I tell
Mm-hmm.
them that's not appropriate for a 401k plan. Well, why not? It's making
Mm-hmm.
money. It's not appropriate for a 401k plan. Okay, so how about if I buy this land and we're going to put this building on it and we're going to rent it out and we're going to take the rent from those folks and we're going to make money on that and then we can invest that? Not appropriate for a 401k plan. Good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Please do, but not for a 401k plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So
you
I
do
think
keep
that's
them. You do have to guide them in making sure that yes, it's for them, but at the same time, under the auspices of the regulations that are there, they do have to comply.
exactly, exactly. We've got more
Mm.
regulations on my side of the business. We make less money actually, but we have more regulations on the retirement plan side of the business than they do on the wealth side of the business. Uh,
Mm.
there are some employers. I'm sorry. There's some wealth advisors that do both. That's cool.
Mm.
And when they do that, they have to follow the rules over here that we have here and the rules over there. And to be honest with you, most wealth advisors would rather just make more money than follow the
Mm.
rules here, right? Because here, as a wealth advisor, and I don't mean that in a bad way, as a wealth advisor, you get to manage that person's whole financial situation, uh, all of their goals, right? So their insurance needs, their investment needs outside of the 401k, their children's needs, the charities they're going to donate to, the real estate that they're going to buy. Your financial advisor gets involved in all of that. Whereas
Mm-hmm.
I'm just dealing with your 401k plan,
Mm.
right? It can be 50% of your holdings, it can be 10% of your holdings, it could be 90% of your holdings. I'm going to help you best as I can to work inside that 401k plan. And then, if you want me to work with your financial advisor, if you want me to meet with them and say, okay, the 401k plan is X percentage of the business, how are we going to run that? No problem. I have no problem doing that. That's totally fine. But I also act as the first line of defense for many of my clients with regard to how they look at the market.
Mm.
I want to do this as a series. We've got some other things to talk about. But the last thing that I would say is that because I have rules that I have to follow, I have a particular way of looking at the market. And one big rule is buy low and sell high. And the other big rule is stay the course. And so I'm sure you've noticed me doing that. When I look at a person's portfolio and they say to me, I lost money in last year and I lost more the year before, and the year before I made money. How do I stop that? I say, why would you want to? And if you go to a wealth advisor and you say the same thing, my colleague might say, well, let's take a look at how much you lost. When you really look at that, back at it, maybe it wasn't so much. Or, let's take a look at the future. How do we fix that? Because you're not the same person that you were back then. And
Mhm.
let's get you to a point where your portfolio is going to more make you better money based on who you
Mhm.
are, right?
Mhm.
Still very good things to say, but we're looking at the market in a different, and we're using the same market pretty much. So, it's kind of like you've got a pair of pliers and a screwdriver. You're working on the same car. Car hasn't
Mhm.
changed, same car, but you're going to be attacking things from a different point of view with depending on the tool that you use. It doesn't mean that you need to get rid of both tools. Most people do need a screwdriver and a pair of pliers when they
Mhm.
need both. So they can find spot in your tool chest. I'm just here to help you with your employer benefit.
Okay. No, I like the fact that you are very personable. I mean, because there are people in all industries that are more self-serving, I guess is a good word.
Yeah,
um, but I think you really work. Yes, you're working for your client, but you also want to make sure that your client is doing the right thing for their employees, and overall, then everyone will be successful.
there you go. There you go. A rising tide raises all boats. And that's what we're here for, to
Yeah.
help each other out and to
Yes.
make everyone successful. And that's the deal. And I can get that done with the help of the employer.
Yes. I like it.
Yeah,
It's
cool.
good philosophy to have, especially if you're serving people, whoever you're serving.
Well, I hope so. We just need to make it pay the bills now. That's all. you know,
Well, that part is very, very true. I
yeah,
completely understand.
right. We get this thing to pay the rent. That's all right.
Right, exactly. But I do know that people, we talk about this all the time in all our shows. What does retirement look like once retirement is a reality, right? And so, um, with you saying stay steady, buy low, and not high. Those are all things you are doing to look out for those people, for both the employer and the employee, but making sure that the employee is going to decisions. And the show actually helps that as well because we're giving you insight on what that looks like.
Yeah, at the end of the day, um, we want happy employees, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
because happy employees produce more, happy employees work smarter,
Mm-hmm.
better, not necessarily harder, and happy employees come back to work.
And they're loyal. Happy
And they're
employees
loyal.
are loyal individuals, and they will
Right.
do a good job because they feel that they're part of the fabric of the company.
There you go. There you go. So
Hmm.
the employer's desire to create that atmosphere is what I want to that I get to be a part of that. I get to
Right.
be a producer of that. So that's pretty cool. Participating in America's success. All righty, that's all I have. I appreciate your comments. Did you have any last words? Or I think
No, I think we explaining what you do and how you do it, and the philosophies behind it is very important. I think for our audience to understand who Jevon Thomas is. Look at
well,
that,
thank
tooting your own horn for a change.
you. Well, I am one of my favorite subjects, so thank you for
Okay.
letting me spout off just a little bit about that.
Well, I
Well,
like it.
everyone, you have been very kind, audience, and we have enjoyed chatting with you. We will see you next week. We'll talk a little bit more about this in a little bit different tone. I'm working on a show with regard to, you know, investing in the market versus investing in the winners. Got some interesting things to talk about that about. So we'll
Oh,
talk about
good.
that
That sounds
next week.
good.
Yeah. And Crystal, thank you again for joining me. And we'll see everyone next week on Conversations on the Patio with Crystal and Jevon.
All right, everyone. Bye bye.